Hello, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. My business is The Phenomenal STEMist. I'm so excited to be here in Orange County because it's where I live. I live in Apopka, Florida. And I decided to make this business because I saw a need for underrepresented students to be successful in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, math. And the best way I can do that is just provide products for parents to prepare them, whether it's a book or online STEM camps or just video podcasting. My goal is to transform this community, especially those who are underrepresented. And the way to do that is to help parents understand their children's minds and basically develop them at different stages of their lives to be prepared for a successful STEM career. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here.
Hey, it's the phenomenal STEMist. What's going on? Hi, everybody. It is a different day today. I know it's first Sunday, and normally it's me, Howie, Jamal, and Kamoy, but I have a special guest. We're doing two podcasts today. Phenomenal STEMist, yes, but we're doing the Oakwood Forever podcast. Speaking of which, Oakwood has hijacked. What's going on? It shouldn't be me. Let's try to switch this. Oakwood has hijacked us today. Oakwood Forever. We're celebrating our 25 years of graduation. Oakwood alumni is almost here. Come on, y'all. All the people who graduated in 2000. I hope I shared it in the chat. Get ready to connect, reminisce, relive the best moments. Listen, stay tuned. There's going to be a link provided with all the details for Alumni Weekend, April 17th, 2025. And it'll tell you how exactly to register, get involved. Keep an eye out for the updates. Don't miss your chance to be a part of our celebration, Oakwood 2025. Why are we doing this? Because we want to support our class. We have a special endowment. You see that QR code? Do me a favor and click the QR code to support our endowment. I'll talk about that a little later. But we're back. I'm going to talk. Listen, hey guys, what's going on? What's going on? Hey Howie, hey Jamal, and hey guest Bryant. What's going on?
Hey, hey.
And just trying to make it to day 13.
Shout out to all the feds. We love you. We're praying for you. Listen, we're going to be talking about a special conversation. So we're joining STEM conversations, but in the context of HBCU versus PWI. So just to let you know, HBCU stands for Historically Black College and University, which myself and Bryant went to. And PWI stands for Predominantly White Institution, which Howard and Jamal, via their own special ways, went to as well. All right. So I'm gonna talk about both because I also went to a PWI for graduate school. But I'm gonna be shouting out Oakwood a lot tonight, to let you know. I'm gonna be shouting out Oakwood tonight, and I want my class to get involved. So, first question: what motivated you to choose your institution, whether it be a HBCU or a PWI, for your education, for your STEM education, in the context of me, Howie, and Jamal, and how did that decision shape your academic journey? Why did you choose your institution? So I'll go first. Let's give some guys to think. I went to Oakwood because I felt that God was impressing me to go. I actually got accepted to Stony Brook University. Actually paid for my dorm. Stony Brook is a PWI, really good institution in Long Island, New York. It's a state university. Um, really good medical school, and so I was gonna go there. I call Oakwood Jokewood, but then I just started feeling. I went to a dynamic praise concert, and I felt God was leading me to Oakwood. He wanted me. I felt looking back at it, I wasn't ready emotionally, spiritually to go to a PWI. I needed a little bit more nesting. I needed a little bit more spirit. I ended up going to one and I was ready at 23, but I felt God I wasn't ready at 18. Why did you choose your institutions? Anybody could go first.
I mean, Howard, I'll let you go first, man. You know,
All right,
you
no
went to the
problem.
big boy school over there, man.
Too much, too much dead silence. Right, my bad.
So tell me where you went. Tell us where you went.
We name it name. No, I'm just kidding. So
Yes.
I
Go
went
ahead and name
to
drop, Howard. Go ahead
UMass.
and name drop.
I went to UMass, the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And so for any of for a little bit of context for anyone who was, in our time period, in our years, you had Marcus Camby.
Yeah.
Camby was huge, coming out of UMass, and then ultimately, he actually did end up at the Knicks. And hey, it's another story. But coming out of, so I got there right after he left. And so that school, so I went to that school because I specifically I was in a science honors program back in the Bronx, New York, at a high school. Uh, Back in New York, and they had a specific program there. So we were already funneled into the sciences. I already knew I wanted to do STEM. I was always into biology. And my sister actually did, she was a microbiologist. She was a med tech back in the city, in a hospital back in the city. And so I was exposed to microbiology. And so actually, even back then, senior year college, I knew that I wanted to do, I wasn't so big necessarily on going med school or anything. I wasn't sure about that, but I wanted to do a more specific science. I was really big into biology, but I really liked the idea of doing an applied science, a more specific major than biology. And
Mhm.
so microbiology, UMass had a specific microbiology department. And I had not seen that anywhere else really. Well, they do exist, but they were very few. Cornell, some other, schools of that nature. I didn't think I was getting into Cornell at the time. And so, but microbiology was this. So I went because I went specifically for the major. Not only that, I had family in Massachusetts. So I knew the Boston area and so forth. UMass, however, is nowhere close to Boston. It's 2 hours west of Boston, but it's a big, Massachusetts school, Massachusetts state school. So that's why I went.
Got you. You had a specific major. Yeah, most HBCUs are a little bit more general. That's true. Who's next? Brian, why you went to Oakwood?
Bad choices. No, no.
Hey, don't
Bad,
be doing
bad
this
choices.
on phenomenal STEMist. Come on,
So,
man.
so I have to be growing up in the 80s, of course, you had the Cosby Show. And the Cosby Show bigged up Hillman. And so I was like, all right,
Yeah.
let me go to a place where people look like me, and where I felt that at least I was going to get the benefit of the doubt. I grew up in a small Christian school, so wasn't like trying to chase after God or feeling like I was like missing anything spiritual. So it was really, I had an opportunity to go to PWI out in Rhode Island, but I did not know where Rhode Island was. I'm from DC, nation's capital. This is where I am. I had a full ride to even go to Bowie State, another HBCU, and I chose Oakwood thinking that Oakwood would match Bowie's full ride. They did not.
Mm. Oh man.
I think I walked in with a $200 scholarship. And I was like, man, I got a 3.49 GPA. That's
Yeah.
gotta be worth something. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So because I went to a boarding school and about maybe 55% of my class went to Oakwood, I was like, well, let me just go where people know my name. And so I just chose Oakwood, and I'm fortunate to have that experience. I stayed there for about 4.5 years. But I always wonder, like, how would I have really fit in if I went to a PWI, if I just took that path of just trying to be my own person.
Mm.
So I'm a little envious of Howard and Jamal to see like how they really felt, kind of being their own person in a school that was predominantly white.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Jamal,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
did you choose?
yeah,
Tell,
to
tell
that
us where
same
you went. Tell us where you went. Your
I
transition, and it
yeah, I
wasn't really
finished.
the path.
Yeah, it wasn't a normal path. So I initially started out at community college. So I went to Seminole State, got my AA from there. But I initially was going to Santa Fe. So like I did a semester out there, and my goal was to go to UF. So like my brother was at UF, and I had, he had his friends out there. So that was the initial plan. Ended up getting married, coming back to Orlando, and starting a business and stuff. And so then I ended up going back to school, went to Rollins for to finish up my bachelor's in computer science, and then went there to do the master's. And yeah, I chose them because it was a good fit to get back into in my like, and since it was later, and like I was probably like late 20s or mid 20s, something like that when I went back. And so it was a good fit to jump back into school and kind of get going, as opposed to going to like a UCF or something like that, which was kind of massive, more procedure, all that. So yeah, that's how I ended up going there. They had the program that I wanted, and so just jumped into it.
Okay, so you were a more mature student. You really didn't need the dorm life, the dorm experience. You had a wife and children. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So different people have different reasons, and so that
yeah,
I love. Just to let you guys know, for especially those who are watching from the Oakwood, um, uh, group, alumni group. Jamal is a computer scientist. Howard is a microbiologist. I am a biologist. This is Phenomenal STEMist today. We're focusing in on our role in STEM, but at the same time, we're also shouting out the OU reunion. Remember, this year's OU reunion is our 25th. It's our 25th. It's all about celebrating friendships, memories, the legacy we built together. 5 years or 50. It's time to come home. Let's go. Oakwood forever. Details and registration are to come. Stay tuned. But let's make this reunion unforgettable. I want to see you guys there. I want to see you guys there. And remember, make sure you check that QR code to support our fund. We're trying to raise $25,000. So that's my commercial. Listen, here's our next question. Can you share some specific challenges you faced during your time in STEM? And how did your institution's environment, whether it be HBCU or PWI, influence your ability to overcome those challenges? So
yeah. Okay.
go ahead, Jamal.
No, no.
Okay, so I had the privilege of doing both. So Brian, I went to an Adventist high school as well. I still think I needed a little bit more cradle. I felt like Oakwood was a good. I think 18, especially in STEM, is hard, and I've seen it as a professor. Students leave and go to other institutions and get lost. They don't get supported as well. Oakwood provided such HBCUs provide such a great support, especially for STEM majors, right? So when things got hard and I wanted to give up, I had a support system around that would not let me give up, even through prayer. we push through. Versus at a PWI in graduate school, I had to be so on point because you're not getting that level of support. But even actually, I did actually when I went to a PWI, we had a Black Percy Julian Association that gave me that same cradle. So I've always looked for support, and I think HBCUs provide the best, especially when stuff gets hard. Yeah. What about you? What are some specific challenges you might have faced in STEM?
And mine was probably workload. So not so much workload. The workload was okay and manageable, but the new topics. So like being computer science, just like you guys, you have to take calc, you have to take physics, you got to take all this stuff. And so, from where I was coming at, it's just like, okay, you know what, whatever. You go, you take the class, and you learn it as you go. But when you jump in there and you realize that calculus is a totally different form of math, you see what I'm saying? Like if you're not ready for it, then then that can kind of hold you back a little bit. And so I think for me, it was when I was in high school, not look, and there were some kids that were already on the path, like they were taking pre-calc and all that stuff. But I think that was probably the biggest hurdle on me. And I think with like the places that I went to, the resources to get better if you wanted to, right? The tutoring and all that stuff. I mean, it was there, but you had to go seek it out. Yeah, you had to go seek it out. So that was probably the toughest thing is just, all right, you know what? Am I prepared for the course load that I actually went in to go do? And for the most part, like the skills were there. It was just you like, okay, you know what? This is something new. So now you got to grind a little bit more. And then like, are those resources there to kind of fill in some of the gaps?
Mm, mm.
Mm.
Brian, what was your major?
Oh, my major was marketing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And y'all put me on this for no reason, just to make fun of me.
No.
Yeah, I'm
Don't you
I'm
like?
Again.
watching that now. I'm sitting here with my fidget spinner. It's like, what am I gonna say? No, but I
Bro,
do have
don't
a
don't
question.
hey,
Like,
don't feel bad. I feel the same way when they start talking about like they biology classes, man. Don't-
well, I can't tell you how many times I took calculus over and over and over again and over. But
Wow.
I gotta ask, like, what? Because I went to a small school and science really wasn't. It was there, but it wasn't really pushed. Um,
Mm.
Ooh.
what inspired you or motivated you to pursue that field and to say, you know what, I belong, or what path and from grade school, high school that led you to say, you know what, I got this is what I want to do, this is why I'm going to do it. Was it someone, was it something, was it internal, was it external? Because there's a lot of people out there that's just like, how, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
How?
For me, oh, good, good, definitely have.
Yeah, well, to answer that question, like I said a little bit about it earlier, that I did have a model at home. My sister, so there's three of us, myself and two older sisters, and my oldest sister, me and my oldest sister are more similar minded. We're more STEM minded. My second oldest sister, she's the artsy one. She went into fashion, um, which was pretty easy to do back in New York City. Um, so, like I said, I sort of grabbed me and my older sister sort of vibed when it came to science. I was that nerd. Like I was the kid. I was always into biology. Like I always had just a desire. I loved science. I love biology specifically. I love I was the kid, Maya can attest is like, we were the ones who sit down and watch nature shows all day, all night, like not all night, back then it was like PBS, it was like
Yeah. Still not
you
a
watch
science guy.
nature, um, was it Wild America with Marty Stauffer? It's like it's all this stuff that's the stuff I was into back then. So I gravitated to it, and then I did well in it also. So going through elementary all the way through, I was always good at science. So I was being affirmed all along the way because I loved it and I was doing well in it. So I was being rewarded for it. So I knew this is the direction I was going in. Um, And then to answer the question there, the challenges that you face, I mean, so always being a science guy, and being in STEM, loving STEM, and the fact that STEM has always we are continually have continually been the minorities in that space. I'm pretty much used to it. I've always been used to it. I've always been used to being like the only one. But being in high school in a huge public city high school, there was actually, like I said, we had that program. So there was a bunch of us. There was a ton of us in concentrated in this particular program. And so because of that, we it was a very diverse group. We are that's, New York City Bronx kids of color, Latino, Black, of the diaspora, Caribbean, Black American, we all right there. Um, because of that, I want to give you just this context. And for those who are listening, I'm not like the poster child for PWI. Like, that's not what's going on here. Like, it's purely by circumstance. Like, because of my environment that I was brought up in, I had no idea about HBCUs.
Right, because you're West Indian.
I'm West Indian.
Yeah.
We didn't know. Like, I remember two dudes right now. Actually, they were brothers, and they were Muslim, and they lived in that Bronx environment, Black American, while the majority of other folk were of the Cari- of an immigrant, second generation immigrant background. They were the most Afrocentric dudes in the school that I knew. Like, so I didn't know. I had no idea about this potential alternative.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And then on top of for the Oakwood situation per se, I wasn't a professed Christian at the time. I didn't grow up. I got into the faith in my middle 20s.
Right.
So I didn't know about an Oakwood, or we don't when it came to HBCUs, it's like college football. It's like I
Mhm.
had no idea. I did not have a point of reference or context for going into STEM, and an HBCU being a vehicle that would benefit me. I had no idea.
That's so powerful. And I agree. If I was an Adventist, I probably wouldn't have gone to a HBCU either, because I wouldn't have known about it either. Um, how did your experiences with faculty and mentorship differ between a HBCU and a PWI? And what impact did that have on your personal professional development? That's huge for me, because I had personal relationships with my faculty at Oakwood. I did not have that in graduate school. I have students right now of color who are at PWIs who are asking me from their community college for letters of recommendation. They do not have the relationships, the research opportunities, So I feel like black faculty is critical for black students. What do you all think? Anybody?
Yeah, I'm living it through my son, so I'm interested to see how that happens because I've heard about that, but like all the institutions I went to, like I did a little bit of UCF, obviously I did a bunch at Rollins, and then at the community college level, it was just all right. You know what? You go to class, you do your thing, and I've always had like helpful professors. So if you did need the office hours, if you did want to kind of chat with them and do some stuff, like they were always available, but there was never an overt like, all right, you know what, we're gonna put our hands around you and push you to the
Right.
finish line. You see what I'm saying? It was, yo, you know what, this is what we doing. This is the syllabus. All right, you know what, if you're intrigued, right, if you have anything extra, we're all about like, because they still love what they do, right? They still love their craft. So like if you talk to them about it, they want to kind of share, unless it's someone who probably doesn't know as much, or just at the beginning level. But yeah, I never saw anyone who was just like, all right, you know what, let's kind of do this together. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was always a kind of a, all right, we're here if you need us, but call us.
And it's funny in STEM, the same professors, like we didn't have that much black faculty in STEM.
No,
Like
no, no. Okay.
I had Chinese organic professors and Russian biochemistry professors, like, but they had the passion still for Black HBCUs. So I feel like they were still different than the ones that worked at my PWI. What do you guys think? What was there a difference in faculty mentorship?
Yeah, that is true. Man, I had a really unique situation. I mean, or I should say, my school provided a really unique situation, and schools like it, PWIs like it, provided almost like an HBCU experience within the school. So it was so big that so I'm coming from a large, large population New York City school, right? So I was used to that. My guidance counselor, however, was just they were, through the 4 years, they sort of understood my personality. I had the same advice all the way through. She was like, Howie, and she suggested some schools, some smaller PWIs actually, that she thought I'd probably do better at because of my personality type. I'm more introverted, etc. Right. Um, but I ended up going to a giant, public university. Like I said, I went because of the major, right?
Major, yeah.
So so because the college that the major was in was really small, so it was almost as if I went to a smaller college
Got
because
you.
the people that were in there, the department itself was tiny. But because it was a specific um, major, specific field, there was even less of us. I knew some people. I think I was the only graduate. I think I was the only Black male in my graduating class
Wow.
in that department. Um, and I knew of some people who were above, a little and below. I mean, further in seniority or came in after me. Um, but in the school itself, because they knew you were a minority coming in, they had a program for minorities. They
Mm,
had a program that was comp- uh, somebody at some point created an entire curriculum for advising and for supporting people of color all the way through their undergraduate experience. And so when you came in from the time that you did, what's called freshman orientation, stuff like that, and you pick your dorms and all this kind of stuff, they had a separate all the way through. They had a separate but equal, like they had a separate thing going on where as you were going through your process for the university, they would also have a group or have you join a group, be a part of a group for orientation for you as a person of color all the way through. So even though you had an advisor for your major, they also gave you the option. They gave you the opportunity to have a counselor, an advisor from their side. And
yeah.
that advisor, and I had that all the way through. And that's literally how I survived that whole situation.
I'm sure they got rid of that. In these days, these streets,
I don't
in
know.
these
Not
Well,
streets,
Boston. Boston's
I
different though. Boston's
Well,
different.
Massachusetts is
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
it's
That
yeah.
different.
program
Massachusetts is
Yeah.
had
different.
that program had been there, I believe, since the 70s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, it
Gotcha.
was established. It was established.
So
They had a very strong Afro American Studies program at UMass. They always had. I don't know if they still do, but the people have been there for a very long time.
Brian, could you have handled a big school? You came from a small Christian school, a small private boarding school.
Right.
Could you have
Yeah.
handled a massive school?
I'd like to believe that I could. I mean, I'm an introvert and can be an extrovert in smaller groups.
Yeah.
It was just didn't have the opportunity. I do remember going to public school for like one semester in 10th grade, and I loved it. I mean, I got exposed to Greek mythology. I was like, oh, Adventist schools don't do this. Everything is, witchcraft and this. I was like, but this is interesting. And I loved it. But then I picked up some bad habits. I was like cursing every other word. And so I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. My mom said, you're not ready for this. We're going to put you back in this class of 4 people where your GPA is the curve, and you can be a valedictorian and feel good about yourself. Um,
I hear you.
Hold on, before you answer that question, let me go to another commercial. Let me go to another commercial. From Upscale Events, from our own very class member Andel Brown, his Soar Huntsville experience, to timeless memories at Oakwood University's gym, skating rink. Our alumni weekend is bringing back all the nostalgia. Our class reunion, 25 years, is the perfect chance to reconnect with old friends, create new memories, stay plugged in. Listen, updates will be coming. So do me a favor, get to our LinkedIn page, get to our Facebook group, and we're gonna have another page for everybody to make sure we're linked in and updated. All right, go ahead, Brian, ask your question.
I wasn't even asking the question. I
Oh,
was.
I'm sorry.
This is why I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Where's my speaker button? No, but seriously, I would say with Oakwood, you get what you put into it, and so Oakwood is a completely different HBCU than any other one. It's not Howard. You don't have a lot of the philanthropic arms to build up the school, the notoriety. I think what Clifton Davis was a famous attendee, or what is it, Brian McKnight?
Brian McKnight, Take Six.
Take Six. So you got smaller Virtue, you got smaller groups, and it was mainly like arts. It wasn't, you really didn't hear many people again in the science field, because in Adventism, they really didn't push that. I wish they did, because then there would have been a different option, because it was either I know biology was big there, and I wasn't good in science. I wasn't going to sing. I only could do 5 notes. And then there was it education, or it was something. But I think if Oakwood would have had kind of what Howard had, where there was an intentionality, because I think by just saying that we're all Black, that we all have the same experience, we're all trying to go through shared, everyone doesn't have that, because everyone comes from different forms of Blackness. There's the urban Black, there's the rural Black, there's I have 5 or 6 siblings where I'm an only child. There's those that might have been 5 or 6 generations where, people know your grandfather, where for me, I was brand new. And if I come in late, they were like, "Who are you?" "Yeah, we're writing you up." But my roommate, grandfather at one point was a conference president, and I remember coming in late, and it was like, "Oh, you're such and such. Oh, come on in." I'm like,
"Come on in."
Not fair. Nepotism all through it.
So, I wish that, again, Oakwood had something, and they may have it now. This was the 90s when I was there, but I didn't feel like they had something intentional unless you had status. And yeah, if you had status, doors were opening that you didn't even know there was. All I would see is a wall, but someone else saw a door because they had preference, they had status, they had like biblical history.
Yeah,
might be able to trace them back to Abraham, where I'm might
A
be
true Hebrew.
Yeah, but I think that raises a good point about like the big, and it doesn't have to be PWI in general, because there's small PWI schools, but I think that's one of the difference between the larger and the smaller schools, is that, Roundlands, I don't think would be considered a huge school, but it's not small. You see what I'm saying? But when you get to schools like UCF and even Rollins, right? There's so many people that the nepotism and all the other stuff is, you can't see it, because it's just, there's, you know what I mean? The percentage is small, but it's still there, right?
60,000 people. 60,000
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
It's
But
it's
out of the 60,
diluted.
yeah, but out of that 60,000, you got 10,000. The doors are just open. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And everybody know who they are. And that's just, that's just the world. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's when you go to a smaller pot, though, it becomes prevalent, and
Magnified.
then it then becomes a problem, right? Because you can see it everywhere. You're just like, oh, this ain't right.
No, you can say it's not right, but you don't say it's not right. You're like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, you're right about it. You're right about it.
Yeah, just look at. So, in what ways you want to say something, Howard?
I was just like, huh, wow. Like I'm
Yeah. And
Mm.
in what ways did the sense of community and peer support differ? Like, Did you have a lot of peer support? How are you kind of talked about it? So I
Mhm.
like Jamal to answer that question because we're getting close soon.
Yeah, I don't
Did
know.
you
I'd
get a
say
lot of peer support?
nah, no, I don't think no peer support, right? So you have to go and try to find it. I think that's one of the problem, like, out of all the things that I think differ, right? Because with HBCUs, right, when I talk to my son and even the people that I know that went to them, right, like the support has been there, right? They have the tutoring, they have that kind of stuff, right? Because they want you to make it. They it's like they have a lot of the other intangibles that the PWIs have. But I think the one thing that they'll never have is being in a sense that when I walk into the door, there's people that look like me. And as a kid, I just like how I was saying, like at being in the computer field, it just never dawned on me that I was really the only black dude. Like I was just there doing my thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I went to schools that were kind of mixed. I went to schools that were heavy minority. I went to just a balance. So it just never was a real big deal to me. So um when you end up in like a situation where everybody looks like you and now you can start talking like you know what I mean, like I don't you talk normal but it's still
It's
different,
safe. It's
you
safe.
know and one of the things that I kind of liken it to, I remember there was one time I was at school and living Christian life, doing my thing, right? And just like Brian was saying, right, there's so much to get into, but when you kind of step back from it and you're out of that world, then it's just like, man, you know what, like I want to be a Christian, I want to be this amongst all this stuff. And I remember one time I was in the library and I saw a dude come in from that was part of our church, and the whole vibe, just everything changed because he was part of my culture. He was someone that understood, you know what I mean? And so just him being there changed the whole vibe. And I think that's the way that it would probably be at HBCU, as opposed to being at, PWI. I think the PWI may, if you get into like a fraternity and things like that, you still have that sense of community. But it's definitely, you don't just walk in the door and have it. You got to seek it out. Kind of like Howard, they had to put him in a program. But like my son Ian, like when you go to HBCU, you just walk on campus and,
Yeah.
it's just your people. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the biggest thing is just your culture. And we don't want to lose that ever. Yeah, we don't want to lose that ever.
I'm telling you, I went to PWI for graduate school, and the reason why
Mhm,
I did so well on my comprehensive exam, I got honors, is because I had the Percy Julian Association, which is a black
mhm,
peer cohort in the midst of the PWI, named after a famous black biochemist.
mhm.
So you had you had a sense of belonging. They created a sense of belonging. They trained us for the comprehend. We had mock comprehensive exams. Something's going on with Howie. Um,
Mhm.
it was just it prepared us. I had to get that peer cohort um from within. I
Mhm.
had I had really good experiences with other cultures, but even still at the PWI, the majority of my friends were people of color. Very
Okay.
few Caucasians. They were Asians of China, and they were
Mhm.
Asians of India, like maybe
Yeah.
one white female, and if it was a female, so there still was a sense of belonging there, and black, even in the
Nah,
midst of my PWI.
yeah,
Yeah.
nah, for me, it was like, for one, I was transient. And so that played one factor. But then secondly, like the courses and the stuff that I was doing, like I was never around our people,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So like that was just never the case. So like every now and then I bump into someone, maybe say what's up. And but like and there's like never there was no study groups with no, what I mean, but like there was no programs for that. So that's just kind of how it went. And so like when I first started out, like when I went to Santa Fe and was in Gainesville, it was different because like my brother was at UF and like me, him and his
UF
friend
is
like
University of Florida, y'all.
yeah, University of Florida. And
Mhm.
so they were in the black culture on campus there. And so it was kind of just that interesting seeing that because with the inside of that whole bubble, you know what I mean? Like as long as you tap into, like I said, to like the fraternity life and you get involved in your cultural activities, then you'll see that. But once you step outside your cultural activities, then you know what I'm saying, you go back to
Yeah.
normal. So yeah, that's the thing, just the normal walking around, but that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, did you go to PWI? Did you after Oakland?
I went to University of Phoenix.
Oh, so online. Okay.
Yeah.
Why you laugh after you
Sorry.
said that?
Sorry.
I mean, it
Sorry.
was agreed. It got some letters behind my name.
Yes,
It's
sir.
true. That's
Yes,
what it is,
sir.
man. You got that knowledge. That's what's important out here in these streets.
Jamal, I have a question.
Yeah.
As black men, and we've all been taught. And there was a clip that I remember seeing on Facebook recently where like Dwayne Wayne was telling his students, like, you've got to be better. It's not about being equal. You have to be better. Do you
Yeah.
feel as though being one of the few or maybe the only black person in the room and being of male that pushed you to be better, or do you think that if you were in an HBCU where you saw others that look like you, talk like you, behave like you, that you would have not had to push as hard because it was like we all, hey, we're all moving forward together. You want to go far, let's all go together. If you want to, but again, at a PWI, it's just you and everyone's looking at you and
Yeah.
everyone's either expecting you to fail, or if you're so great, they want to befriend you just for your greatness, not just for you. Can you talk about that?
Uh, I would say that I didn't feel that way, but I think subconsciously, like it was there. You know what I mean? Like you still gotta kind of grind through because you are like the only, you're like the only one. Um, but to me, at the same time, I think it was kind of in me to just kind of want to push, right, and just kind of go. And I think everything else kind of falls into place there. And one of the things that I've noticed is that in a STEM field, you can be great at what you do STEM wise. So I can be the best programmer and I'm going to get rewarded as being the best programmer, right? Howard can be the best biologist. He's going to get rewarded as the best biologist, right? Because your work kind of speaks for you in the sense that where you're doing your work at, they're like they need that particular skill set and they need it to be high level. And so they're just going to dole it out to whoever can do it great. The bump becomes where you have to be super, super great is when you try to get out of that bubble. So like if you decide one day, all right, you know what, the STEM field is great, but instead of being a clinician or a technician or someone who's practicing the actual STEM work, like now I actually want to like like direct or VP or anything like that. That's where it becomes all right. You know what? How do I navigate these spaces when the culture doesn't fit the type of person I am? You see what I'm saying? Because my my temperament probably isn't going to allow me to go play tennis. You know what I'm saying? With what I mean, with the person in charge, right? My temperament's
Mhm.
not gonna like allow me to go and do this and do that because like we just don't connect to that level, right? You know what I mean? Because our and um and that's where it becomes a rub. Where if I'm in a minority firm, right, and someone's to my left, someone's to my right, like we could chop it up. Yeah, let's go have dinner. Come by the house. You see what I'm saying? Like we can click like that because y- we just I don't want to say it feels safe or just I don't know what it is, but culture wise it just fits. And I think that's the tough part. So in order to break that barrier, that's where you have to be super like you have to go above and beyond to kind of break that wall, and you have to move and you have to be agile. And so that's kind of where that's where I think it really matters. It really matters.
Howard, I want you to answer that question. But before you answer that question,
Of course, of course.
Oakwood University Alumni
Yeah.
Weekend is more than just a reunion. It's a movement. Oakwood Forever. There's gonna be panel discussions. There's gonna be networking. There's gonna be unforgettable celebrations on the way. So keep an eye for the updates. There's gonna be a special link coming soon. Make sure you look out for it. Stay connected. Stay involved. You do not want to be the only person to miss this alumni weekend, class of 2025 year anniversary. Yeah, go ahead, Howie. Answer that question. I like that. That was a good question, Brian.
That was
Yeah,
a good
that's an
question.
awesome question, man. I love that question. Yeah, I hated it. I hated the whole concept. I hated I had when I did run across when I did run across our professors, uh there were some uh there was one that I never forget because he was a TA, and he was a young man, he was a grad student. And I was in a class that I was taking as a gen ed requirement. It was not even a STEM class.
Hmm.
You hear my bias already, right?
Sorry. Sorry, Brian.
You hear my bias already. It was like a geography class or something. Like, I was trying to find something freshman year to round out all my other heavy science classes, something that
Right.
I could just chill through, hopefully get an A in. So I'm sitting like, so I would go to this class and I'd sit in the back. And so I'm already fitting the stereotype because I'm like one of the only black kids in the class. And my TA brother wanted to be like, "Hey, can I talk to you after class?" And I was like, "Okay," you know. And he was just like, "Hey man, why you sitting in the back?" So he was holding me accountable. He was a he was a PhD student. He was he was also a fraternity brother and so forth. He was in a fraternity, I'm not in a fraternity, but he was a brother, right? And and so he understood what was required in those streets. And so he was trying to convey that to me. And it was a concept that the reason why I say I hated it is because it was being pushed on me, but I didn't understand it.
Hmm.
I had no idea. I mean, not I didn't have any idea. Like I understood, the isms that we were experiencing and so forth. I can't say that I had at that age, I don't know, I was probably what, 19, 18, 19. I didn't have a full understanding of where I fit into that. So the fact that was being pushed upon me, and I said that when I had, in my high school, we were all in the sciences. We were all pushing together. We had a bunch of folk, you know, top of the class who went to Ivy Leagues. We had everybody was on point. I didn't feel like I had to push more in order to prove something necessarily. Like we were all in it together, and we so the identity was there. It didn't have to be, and I think that's the value that you get in an HBCU situation,
Mm.
where it's like you get to focus on, like you said, Jamal, on whatever it is that I love science. And this is the issue with the world we live in, right? This is the added issue that we have to struggle with. Why I can't just be a biologist? Like
Man.
why I can't just love science?
Right.
Why does it have to be that my love has to have caveats to it? Like I gotta do it different. I gotta, you see what I mean? Like I hated that. I hated that. I'm just saying, I came to understand, I've come to understand as a man. You said like as a black man, right? I've come to understand as a man, but I hated that concept. I still hate it,
Oh yeah.
but I understand it. And
Mhm.
that's a struggle for me. So I try. So if I'm trying to encourage a young person when it comes to STEM, do that thing because you love it, man. Do that thing. Don't necessarily be so influenced by all of these things, right? And if you're going to be influenced by it, have it in the right context. I love this thing, and that's what I love about a place like Oakwood, right? It's like I love this thing. It's like, okay, well, how can you use that thing to benefit, our folk in the
Depart to
midst of the
serve.
struggle, in the
That's
midst
right.
of the struggle. How
Right.
can you, if you love that, go get that thing. We're gonna give you everything that you need to so that for that thing that you love, right?
Yeah.
But so some of the benefit, the actual benefit, I'm because I want to get this out there. The actual benefit to the PWI situation in that context is that it throws you into the real world
Mm.
early.
Mhm.
It throws you into the real world early. It throws you into like, yeah, this is your classroom right here. That's how your work situation is gonna look. You know, you are the minority. You're very likely gonna be the minority when
Mhm.
you get into that lab
Say
on the outside. And
say
so
go make it.
you learn
Uh-huh.
how to roll in this environment right here. That's how your work environment is gonna look. So, that is one of the benefits to that situation. But as a young person, Maya, you said I knew I wasn't ready, right? So a young person you have to be rooted and grounded
Gotta
in
be.
something. You have to have identity.
Yeah.
You gotta have some
And
sort of foundation.
that's why so many of us get lost at PWIs because we don't have it that early. 18 is it's just not a reasonable expectation to have that kind of experience that early. That level of hatred, that level of competition. I was ready at 23. I had Oakland gave me identity. At 23, I was able to see the beast, and especially in high STEM because it's nothing but Asians and whites up at Einstein. I was ready. I was not ready 18. Brian actually has another question. I'm gonna let him go ask the question. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I do agree that PWIs do prepare you for the world because after
Mhm.
graduating Oakwood, I went to work for the federal government, which I'm still there. And I started off as a secretary. Yeah. And I remember there was this Caucasian lady who was like, Brian, the printer is out of paper. Now I'm a secretary. I'm supposed to do that. But I walked past and I was like, there's paper in there. Just close the drawer. I've got a degree in marketing. I got this. But then I had to realize I'm no longer in that protective HBCU, protective Adventist black bubble. I've got to fit in with the real world, and it was humbling. But
Mhm.
this is my question. It was like a part two. How do you not? What do you tell the future STEMists who are going to walk a similar path? How to not get tired of having to
Mhm.
be not just a STEMist, but a black STEMist. And how do you like what maybe there was some tools or something that got you through in your arena to say, okay, yeah, it's gonna get tough. Don't quit. This is what you need to do. Or this may be an avenue that you need to reach out to. Because I see a lot of us wanting to do certain things, but just the magnitude of again having everyone, not just being a STEMist, but having to be a black STEMist, as you said, having to be, a black biologist, can't just be a biologist, can't just be
Mhm.
I've got to put black in front of it. How do you keep from getting tired?
Yeah, I don't know. I know for me, I would say there's two things. And this is one thing that someone told me, I think when I was going to be an engineer. They were like, look, don't be an engineer because of the money. Be an engineer because you really want to be an engineer, right? And I think that speaks to a lot of different things because if you go in there and your focus isn't, all right, I actually want to be a computer scientist, or I
So
want to
true.
be a biologist, or I want to be this, then when it gets real, that money, you're not gonna see that. You're gonna see, man, you know what? This is out of control, right? Because those classes, they'll come and they'll hit you in the face real hard.
Yeah.
And so you have to know, all right, you know what, this is something that I want to do. And then I would say the second thing is you got to be real with yourself and know your what you can take and what you can't take. And so I give two examples, right? Like myself, I took the normal path, right? I went did the normal computer science track. And it was rigorous. We went through, got it, just like other people, nothing special, but like went through it. But then on the other side, you got my brother, right? And he's the one, just like I said, went to UF and did his thing. But He's a programmer as well. But he did it as a business major. So he became a business major, and then he did computer science as a minor, right?
Minor. Yeah.
So, the gauntlet he had to go through wasn't as serious, but he still got there. So I think you have to be real when you're looking at, all right, you know what, I got to take physics, I got to take this stuff. Is it something that you can actually digest? Because like you got to take it, you got to move forward with it, and you have to really want it, because when it gets hard, you got to go find the extra resources. And then secondly, you got to have that capacity, like, yo, is this something that I can digest? Like for me, there's some stuff I just don't have the capacity to do. You know what I'm saying? And if I wanted to do it, I could do it, but it would take me 20 times longer than somebody else. You see what I'm saying? So like that's my capacities for that. It would be difficult for me to be a doctor, because of biology, it takes a lot of memorization, right? I wouldn't get it out the gates. You see what I'm saying? Like it would be tough for me. And so yeah, that's what I would say. Those are the two for me.
Thank
I
you.
would say don't underestimate your task. You gotta study, and
Yeah.
you gotta work for it,
Hmm.
and study hard, like your dreams depended on it. Howard, what would you say?
I learned that I needed to focus. That you really need to exercise that strength if you don't have it. If you didn't have it, there were a lot of study skills that I did not have at the time. All I knew is that I had a huge desire, and I was kind of led by pride also, because I was just like, nah, this is my thing. Like I can't be failing. I can't. When's the last time I failed? You know,
Hmm.
something in science. Like, no, no, I can't. I gotta buckle up. And I tell the story about how I used to run track, and then I D1 at that school, and I reached a point where I had to make a decision. Like, no, you didn't come here to go to the Olympics. I didn't get a sports scholarship, athletic
Hmm.
scholarship for it. I had actually walked on because I just wanted to keep running because I was running in high school. And I learned that no, you're gonna have to make adjustments. You're gonna have to make some man decisions, make adjustments to go after what you really want to achieve, and learn to focus. And I ain't gonna lie, that was the beginning of that whole experience was the beginning of the Lord coming
Hmm.
to me and showing himself to me. And that was a part of the growth of my spiritual identity, the creation of my spiritual identity. And that's why not too long after that, I was giving my life over to the Lord. I didn't pray more than during that time period, finishing up that degree. So these are the type of things I believe that are very important.
Jonice had an interesting question. She said it's interesting to hear our experiences, and particularly against the convo of about DEI as an entry for underqualified persons. Any thoughts? Here's my thoughts. It's a bunch of BS. If that's a nice way of saying it. Listen, some of the most qualified people are fighting our way. We say we got to be the best just to be considered
Hmm.
average. If you look into all of our spaces, many of us are in our spaces are some of the most qualified in our spaces, or overqualified because we can't get the jobs that are meet our qualifications. So we have that, and lastly, but not least, I'm gonna let y'all go.
Hey, one of the things I really I'm learning about this situation is how important stuff like this is. Like we have to do as much as we can internally to pour in everything that we see. We used to leave it up to other folk.
Yeah,
And we need to pour as all the resources that we have, that many of us have and we've amassed. We need to pour it back into our communities so that
Hmm.
we're where we need. A lot of times we don't feel like it's qualified. We got to wait for them to qualify it.
yeah.
Hmm.
And no, we have a lot to pour into, so that people are qualified.
Yeah, we're gonna close on that. I'm gonna say this last thing. You see how we're communicating so well? I dare other people with such great grades. They don't have the level of communication skills that African Americans have. And it's funny, if we would grade people, if we would have grade people based on how well they can convey. For instance, my organic chemistry professor, how well they could convey in English organic chemistry, they probably get an F. But they don't. So there's certain things that they grade people on that are uneven. And soft skills we have. Soft skills we have. Okay, that I had to go on that rant. I'm sorry,
I
Brian.
thought you
I'm
had
sorry.
another Oakwood commercial. I was like, are we giving out manna this time?
Yeah, we're gonna do this last commercial.
Of course.
Speaking of pouring out, right? Pouring into our communities. Listen, we gotta give. You see this QR code, class of 2000 fund. I need support. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just from our fellow Oakwoodites. It could be from all people who love to support Black young people who are in college. So help us build our endowment. We're trying to raise $25,000. This is the countdown. It's on for alumni weekend. It's just around the corner. You don't want to miss out on this amazing opportunity to be a part of our class reunion, to reconnect, relive good times. Stay tuned for more details. Get involved. Keep an eye out for updates. And please, please click that QR code. Support Oakwood. Trust me, you do not want to miss a moment of what we're planning for this amazing weekend. Listen, Brian, thanks for staying the whole time.
I got played. That's what happened. Let's have some phenomenal government business workers or something like that.
I'm
I just show up. No, but I actually appreciate, Mama Howard, y'all are phenomenal men. Thank you for being transparent, sharing your story, humoring me with my long-winded questions to try to bring out some of that deep-seated stuff. I really appreciate it. And Maya, as always, thank you for even believing I might be funny, because I'm not.
You are always funny. Listen, thanks, guys. I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so are all three of y'all.
Yes.
Brian, you a phenomenal STEMist too.
Yes.
I had Skillcraft in 85. Those chemicals weren't real. Probably all salt.
Phenomenal STEMist advocate. We appreciate it.
There you go. Good night, everybody. Wave to the camera.